So let's take a look at number 2. For number 2, we have cosine inverse of cosine of 5 pi over 4. So thinking about trig functions and inverse trig functions, 5 pi over 4, we want to think about, is that a ratio or an angle? It's an angle because I know it represents an angle because it's going into the cosine function. So the cosine function will return a ratio. So this is an angle. The cosine function returns a ratio, and then inverse cosine takes that back to an angle. So our instinct might be to say the answer has to be 5 pi over 4, but that's not necessarily going to be the case. But this is a little bit different than the earlier example, because for cosine in particular, I can plug in any angle. So this is going to be defined. This is going to give me some ratio, and then the inverse cosine can always be applied to any cosine ratio, so I should get some answer, but it's not going to be this answer. Because what do we know about inverse cosine? Inverse cosine, the value for y has to be an angle between 0 and pi. And 5 pi over 4 is not between 0 and pi. 5 pi over 4 is bigger than pi. So to think about what the answer should be, we need to realize that 5 pi over 4, it's outside of that range of inverse cosine. It's outside of the set of angles that I can use. And in fact, it's actually right down here. It's in quadrant 3. But values that come out of the inverse cosine have to be between 0 and pi. They have to be either in quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. And so what we need to do is realize that the cosine ratio, the x-coordinate of this point, is related to an x-coordinate that is in our valid domain, and think about where that should be. Well, if this is 5 pi over 4, that means that this angle, the reference angle, is going to be pi over 4. And so the symmetric point that we're looking for in quadrant 2 is going to also have a reference angle of pi over 4. Right, so this also has to be pi over 4. And so the angle that we're looking for, this angle, is pi minus pi over 4, which of course 4 pi over 4 minus pi over 4 is 3 pi over 4. So 3 pi over 4 and 5 pi over 4 have exactly the same cosine value, and that is the answer that we're looking for. So for number 2, the expression cosine inverse of cosine of 5 pi over 4, we don't get back this angle because it's not in the range of inverse cosine. Rather, we get back the angle that is in the range of inverse cosine that gives me that same cosine ratio.